everybody.
Hey everybody, it's NadjNJea, and we are here down at the Nanticoke Indian Museum with Mr. Jackson.
Mr. Jackson.
And
And
Mrs. Hall.
Corel Hall. I love her name.
Herman Jackson and Corel Hall. So
Yes.
they allowed for us to come down here in this beautiful sacred space.
I was
if
going to
you
say,
will.
this is sacred. This is a sacred conversation,
Yeah.
a sacred space. I'm so excited.
Yeah, and we just wanted to have a full discussion about really, number one, the huge event that's going on in Wilmington on the 20th.
First.
Yeah, it's the first time ever. We're having a powwow at the Delaware Art Museum on the 23rd of July. So my first question is, what does it mean to you to have the powwow not be in Sussex County and up in Newcastle County at the Art Museum? What does that mean to you? I'll start with you, sir, if you don't mind.
Well, we travel anyway for different powwows. I've been all the way to Lebanon, Missouri.
Okay.
So traveling is really no big thing.
Okay.
But it's good that it's the first up there because we don't normally reach Wilmington.
Right.
Our powwows are up north and on into Pennsylvania and all.
Yeah.
So this brings it closer to our state, our home.
Yeah.
But up north where we don't normally go.
But why do you think that it always has skipped, Newcastle County? Like, I know it's not intentional, but what do you think why does that happen,
Because as Nanticoke, we are a state recognized tribe.
Okay.
Chesville, the Lape are state recognized tribe.
Okay.
And we have none in Newcastle County.
Got you.
Oh.
Pennsylvania, as big as that state is, they do not recognize any tribe.
Wow. I didn't know that.
Yes.
That's
I
wild.
found it hard to believe too, but the whole state, they don't recognize no tribe. And there's several up there.
That, I mean, to say the least, that's an eye-opener that I just learned now. Yeah. So
Yeah.
from your end, Corel, what does it mean to you?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really great to hold another powwow. So we have our big powwow down here in Sussex County, and our sister tribe up in New Jersey holds their powwow. But yeah, there's really sort of this empty space here in Wilmington where that we haven't been able to have our presence known, and so I think it's really good for us to be able to, move into that space and be able to be more visible up in Newcastle.
I mean, I will say just from my end, and I'll let you take over.
I'm ready.
No, I know she's got a million, man. But from my end, like, I think it's kind of universally understood amongst my family that I'm terrible about getting downstate and making the powwow. And I would think at least that if it were, 15 minutes away from me, that I'd make a better effort to be there. So we already know that there are plenty of, Nanticoke and Lenape people living in Newcastle County, and now maybe in the least it makes it a little bit easier for them to have access to this culture that's theirs, right? So, yeah.
What is a powwow?
Yeah.
So a powwow is a celebration of Native American identity and culture. There's dancing and singing and drumming. There's food and vendors that'll be selling their crafts. It's a place for the general public to come. Everyone is welcome to come to a powwow. They're not closed gatherings. They're not for family only. They're for the general public. And it's a place for people to come and learn about their Native American neighbors. And also for Native people, it's a chance for us to gather together, to teach some of our traditions, to pass down those traditions, to some of it's partially like a family reunion almost.
Yeah.
People you don't see, all year long, they get together to go to powwow. And there's many families that go on this, we call the powwow trail, where they're going to different powwows all over all summer.
Okay.
So these are all just kind of, in a way, just big parties celebrating your indigenous culture from place to place across the country.
Yeah.
Right?
And it gives some of us the opportunity to go out and talk to the spectators and all, and answer questions they have about us.
And educate
And
you.
Yeah.
it is a lot in a day's time.
Yeah.
And they ask all kinds of questions, mainly about our regalia.
Yes. I mean, let's jump right
Let's
into
be
that. Let's talk
specific.
about the regalia.
Yes.
Tell us about that. Because I will openly admit that I made the mistake of asking about the C word.
So it's funny that
that I won't say. Do
It's-
not call it that. It is regalia. Could
No,
you speak
and
on
it's-
that?
I just want to say, from like Indians from India, I've had friends who they talk about garb.
Yeah.
So I
Yes.
always thought, okay, I'm going to be the one to say garb instead of costume. But now even having conversation with you, like learning the official name means so much more. So yes, please explain.
Yes. Well, regalia is the name that we'd like to use. Garb is not a bad name to use, and that's certainly something that is common for them to use. But the important thing is we want people to understand that there is a difference between a costume and some of these other choices, because some people also say outfits. Some
Okay.
people will say dresses if that's what they're, for the women, if they're wearing dresses, But it's really important to let people know that these are not costumes, because costumes are what you wear when you want to dress up and pretend to be something you're not.
Right.
So for Halloween, which is lots of fun, I love Halloween and I love wearing costumes. However, so many people are already trying to associate Native American people, with these mythical beings. So you have people that dress up as Native Americans for costume, for Halloween.
Yeah.
And so we want people to really understand that our culture, our histories are not just these, costumes you can put on and play act with.
Yeah.
They are, they're part of our histories. They're part of our ongoing culture. And so regalia is the word that is sort of universally accepted at this point all across Native America or Turtle Island.
Okay.
And it's signifying that these are clothing that we wear for ceremonies, for very particular events. We're not necessarily wearing them out on the street. Like the clothing that we're in today, like this ribbon skirt that I'm wearing, or
Which
his
I
ribbon
love,
shirt.
love.
These are, the types of clothing that we could wear anywhere, to work, to an interview, and, just out in our daily lives. But the regalia that we put on to dance in has very specific meaning, and some of it is being worn for ceremonial purposes, and we really want to make those distinctions.
Okay. So I asked you off of camera, for people who are just coming to the powwow, what could we wear? Because there have been times where people are invited to events for specific cultures, and they'll dress as those cultures would dress. And you actually said spectator. You're a spectator. Where would you would normally wear?
Yeah.
So what would it be like if someone who wasn't a Nanticoke showed up and was wearing some of the regalia?
That would be the opposite of us wearing a costume.
Right. Right.
If they put dressed in regalia, not being native,
Right.
or any affiliation with any group, then they're putting on a costume. They're becoming something they're not.
Literally.
And if they come into the circle, then it would be a huge disrespect to the whole thing right there.
Y'all heard that. So
But if you're
Yeah.
coming as a spectator, just wear your normal street clothes. Wear something comfortable, It's
Yes.
gonna be fun. And I do want to also add that when you shop at the native vendors, they may have, there are, like, say, earrings, for example, that you could buy, or other items, clothing items that are being sold, and buying them from native artists is okay,
Yeah.
because what they're
course.
selling at these vendor tables are things that can be worn by anyone. So if you see people like selling powwow t-shirts, you can totally buy those and wear those. Nobody at these vendor tables are going to be selling these like sacred regalia items, so you don't have to worry about that.
Right. So, what are just some of the maybe like top 3 or top 5, things that you all try to communicate and teach when you do these powwows? Like, what are the things that you're trying to make people understand about the culture? Like, you need to know this, that, and that.
Number one,
Yeah.
we are still here.
Listen.
There are Native Americans still here.
Yes.
Yes.
In Delaware, we are
Yes.
still here.
Yes.
And we're proud of it.
Yes.
That's why we go out and dress and dance, because we are proud of who we are.
yeah.
So that would be the number one, that we're still
I
here.
love it. Yeah.
Second would be to educate on our heritage, some of the things we do, don't do,
Yep. Yep.
and you got it. Go ahead.
And also just to learn and to to appreciate
Yeah.
who we are.
Yeah.
And because I think it's, so many people, they don't really know that much about us.
Yeah.
And powwows are a really good place where you can come in and you can, talk to people and get those questions answered.
So I'll ask questions as they're coming in my brain right now.
Oh, so you just gonna?
But ladies first, what's your question?
No, you're good. Go ahead.
What differentiates, because there's obviously, from here to California all the way to South America, just a huge spectrum of different cultures within indigenous culture. So could you educate us specifically about what it means to be Nanticoke and Lenape? Like what makes that culture, what stands out about that culture, if you will? Yeah.
So broadly speaking, we're part of Eastern woodland communities.
Okay.
So just if we're thinking just sort of regionally across the continent,
Sure.
you've got sort of that southwestern region, you've got the northwest coastal region, you've got plains, you have these different sort of geographic areas. And so here in the Eastern woodlands, we have like the moccasins, for example, that we wear on our feet are distinct from the moccasins that you'll see out west or up north. So there are other items in our regalia and our that we wear that are very distinctive to this area.
So like the region.
To the region, yes.
Yeah.
Also,
How far is that region? Like, where does that region kind of start and stop, generally?
where the
Yeah.
trees are. No.
Well,
So it includes like all of New England, Mid-Atlantic,
That
into
far.
the Midwest,
Yeah.
Okay.
like out to Minnesota, like as far as west as that.
Yeah.
I was going to be like the PA to Maryland, but no, it's much
No,
bigger.
it's
they're
a
put
big-
together in language groups. We are a
Yes.
Algonquin-speaking language group.
Yes.
Yes.
And like she said, from Canada down, as far as I know, we're about the southernest far.
Yeah, we're kind of on the
Okay.
southern
When you
edge.
cross over North Carolina and all, you get into Cherokee, there are different language groups.
It's a different language group.
Yes.
Which make, okay,
Yeah.
there we go.
You speak a different language. You have.
Algonquin?
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
there's-
we,
Sewing, I can't think of all of them.
Yeah, those are the
but
language
there's like
families, but-
13 different, and then that's split
So
up
is
in
that
different
almost
ones.
like, so for me trying to understand the overall concept, is that almost like the idea of a Latin-based language like Spanish, Italian, those are all fall? Okay, same idea. Cool.
yes,
Gotcha.
exactly.
Yep, makes perfect
So
sense.
Nanticoke and Lenape are both part of that broader language family, and it's also includes speakers all the way up into New England and sort of the northeastern part of Canada, as well as into the Great Lakes region.
Yeah, on the other side of the Great
But
Lakes.
there is one little strip of completely the Haudenosaunee people, who you may also know as Iroquois. Haudenosaunee or Six Nations are what they call themselves, and they're a completely separate language group, even if they're geographically close to us.
Okay.
Wow.
Interesting.
My goodness.
So, with you specifically, I'm actually very interested. Just when we had our just sort of little small talk in the beginning, you were born in upstate PA, right? You said
In Pennsylvania,
In
yes.
Pennsylvania. So, at what point did you? And now, everyone, she's getting her doctorate.
Woo!
Studying
smart,
all of
smart.
this stuff. So, when did you first really get connected? And you may have always been connected, but if it was from the beginning, when did you first get connected to your indigenous culture? And if you could kind of walk us through like the progression of you being like, you know what, I want to really know everything I can about this and be totally knowledgeable, if you don't mind.
Sure. So I grew up knowing who I was and who my people were and who my community was. This is my mom's family, and my mom is from Delaware.
Okay.
So, she grew up surrounded by family. And even though she moved to Pennsylvania for work, and then later into Cleveland, where I actually grew up in Cleveland,
Just came from
Ohio.
Cleveland.
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
Oh, wonderful.
I
Like
have
literally 2
family in
days ago.
Cleveland.
Nice.
Yesterday.
So I was born in Pennsylvania, but I only spent the first year of my life there.
Oh, okay.
The rest of my childhood I actually spent in Cleveland.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
And my dad is from Ohio. His family's from Cincinnati.
Okay.
And so, but we grew up in Cleveland because that's where they were working.
Yeah.
And so I grew up knowing about, who my family was, even if I wasn't, didn't grow up in the same way that my mom did with all of her cousins sort of down the street from her. But, we made visits out to see our family just so we could reconnect. I didn't actually get to go to the powwows when I was little, mainly just because it's a long way to travel, and our powwow is always after Labor Day, and so it was really difficult being in school and then, trying to travel during that time. But, I certainly I knew about it, and I was able to come a lot more regularly to the powwow after I graduated from college and moved to Washington, D.C., because then it's a much quicker drive over here. So I would say that I first wanted to learn a little bit more, particularly about the language and revitalizing the language, and that's probably started when I was in college.
Okay.
So I went to Dartmouth College, and they have a pretty large Native American program where they recruit Native students from all over. They have Native faculty. They have a program, a Native American Studies program that you can major in, as well as other support networks for Native students. And so it was really a great opportunity for me to meet other Native students and learn about what they were doing. And around that time, you have a lot of different communities really working on revitalizing their languages. And then I went on a foreign study program to New Zealand, and my host family was a Maori family, and they were revitalizing Maori.
Oh, that's perfect.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
And so, really talking to them made me really, I think, want to figure out how I could help our community.
Yeah.
Because our community, our language wasn't spoken in the community, and it hasn't been spoken since before the Civil War.
Wow.
So I just
Wait, that's a
yes, and I want to before you
yeah.
dive into that.
Yes.
What do you mean exactly by revitalizing the language? Are you
Yeah.
saying that no one's literally how I'm speaking English right now? No
Right.
one physically spoke, so you are teaching,
Correct.
Since
reteaching,
about
learning?
1850 something.
Exactly.
Wow.
Lydia Clark, the Clark family, was the last known fluent speaker.
Yes.
And then if you don't use it, you lose it.
Right.
And it just dwindled down.
Yeah.
And I am so happy that she is working so hard to bring it back. If I only know 10 words.
Give us a few
that-
words. Give the people some words. Tell
Can
us-
you? Can
Absolutely.
she? Oh my God, this is
Please.
cool.
What's
Of
our
course.
language?
I know,
I know.
it's like sacred.
Go ahead, flex on them. Go ahead.
Well, let's start with our word for thank you, because giving thanks is really important. And it's one of those, it was probably, I'd say, the one word either that that came back or the one that stayed that people know. So that word is wanishi.
Wanishi.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Wow.
Wanishi is thank you.
Yes.
But to give thanks, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay,
Yeah, so you
cool,
can
cool,
say
cool.
it. So, I'd say wanishi.
Wanishi.
There we go.
So what did it feel like the first time you it stuck? Like you heard it, you spoke it, and it stuck. What did it feel like?
Well, yeah,
That's a beautiful word. Just that word, thank you.
Yes.
Sorry. But
Yes. Yes.
Wanishi, I was like, oh, that's pretty.
Okay.
it is. I would say I'm not sure that it was one moment.
Okay.
So where I jumped into this language revitalization project. So revitalization meaning to bring it back to the community.
Okay.
Some people talk about languages that nobody speaks anymore being extinct. Different historians, linguists, they use that language as dead languages, extinct languages. We like to use the term sleeping. And this is a term that I actually borrowed from another Native academic who, wanted to encourage people to use that word because sleeping languages can be brought back to life. And they just need to be woken back up again.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so Nanticoke is sleeping, but it is waking back up today.
That's cool.
And so there were some elders in our community that began wanting to revitalize the language. And so what we had to work with were some dictionaries from the 18th century. One that was commissioned by a missionary, another commissioned by Thomas Jefferson. And so they're basically vocabulary lists, about 300 words or so. Lots of interesting spelling choices, mistranslations,
Oh,
because
wow.
they're sort of written by people who are not familiar with the language, not familiar with the sounds in the language, and so depending on what their language background is, if they're an English speaker, French speaker, Dutch speaker, they're sort of writing down what they think they're hearing, and so trying to sort of understand what that actual translation is. So you have things in there like a word that was translated as pond. We actually realized later is actually the word for water. So there's, little things like
That's
that.
a big difference, right?
Or the word
Yeah.
for stone is actually in there as cliff. So you can see where some of these issues because if they're sort of taking a walk through the woods and pointing at something,
Right.
and, you have two different interpretations of what you're
Okay.
pointing at.
Yeah.
But so our community's been working with a linguist who is a graduate student as well at Georgetown in Washington, D.C.
Okay.
His name is Keith Cunningham. Shout out to Keith. He's been
Shout
doing
out to Keith.
amazing work. And he has made it his project to really, clean up some of those dictionaries and to work on, tracing the etymology, the history of those words so that we're getting those proper translations in. And then leaning on that language family that we were talking about earlier to get those pronunciations back.
Yeah.
Because the languages are connected, we actually can understand what the pronunciations of these words were. So, so me along with another elder in our community, Raggy Rain.
That's
Raggy,
a cool name.
yes, she's
That's
amazing.
a cool name.
She
That's
is
a great
wonderful.
name. Sorry, yeah.
And she had this vision that she really wanted to bring the language back to the children.
Yes.
And so you can't really teach the language just from a dictionary alone.
You have to talk to him.
Right.
Yeah.
And so she had this idea and she brought me on board to create this Nanticoke language book. So it's a children's book.
Is it available? Where is it? Are we in the process? Come on now.
I know, right?
We are so close. The book is written.
Okay.
We are working on creating the physical copy of it, the printing,
Okay.
the copyright, all of that.
Reach
All of that.
out as soon as you have
Yes.
it. 'Cause We'll
Absolutely.
talk all about it. I'll
Yes.
read it to my
Absolutely.
kids. All the
You
things.
might have the third or fourth copy.
That's right.
Yes.
I
Yes.
can tell you that.
right.
Maybe 10th or so.
And the book is also going to have an audio book attached to it because this language is primarily an oral language. We're writing it down because we need
That
that.
asked for me, because I can't read them words.
But no one else can, right? Because
Pretty much.
you look at these words and you see sort of this collection of letters, but you don't know where the stress is. You don't know what the vowels are supposed to be.
Right.
If you look at English words, like you have to kind of learn that. Like if you see A's or I's or E's, they all have different
Right.
pronunciations depending
Yeah.
on the word. So the audiobook part of it is definitely important. So those are going to be coming out together so that we can really bring the language back to the community. And we're going to set up some language classes as well so that people can learn.
Oh, that's amazing.
If you really look into it, I'd say 2/3 or better of all your native tribe names have been changed because they found it so hard to pronunciate.
Wow.
They just changed them. Because there's like 3 different versions for Nanticoke. I know Nanticoke.
Yeah.
Cherokee is Salagee.
Wow.
Like you say, the Iroquois is,
Haudenosaunee.
yeah,
Yeah.
Wow.
people of the Longhouse.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
different ones I've talked, the names have been changed
Yeah.
just to make it easier.
Yeah. Which is in
So-
itself disrespectful.
But a lot of
right?
tribal nations are now reclaiming their original names for themselves.
Yeah.
As
Well,
they should.
you're right.
So, I'm sorry.
I was going to say some of them have also been given sort of English names as well.
Oh, okay.
Like I was thinking about like the Lenape, which is their word for themselves, but people in English know them as the Delawares.
Right.
Yeah.
So-
Yep.
So you said something in the beginning when we first started. The very first thing you said was, "We're still here,"
Yes.
and talking about forgot, or how people say forgotten, or you say sleeping language. Why did you say that?
Because I've talked to several people. We go out and do our programs at schools and all. Even especially schools, you go in there, from first grade on up, and first of all, we introduce that for Nanticoke, and they have no idea that Native Americans are still in Delaware.
Yeah.
And this is schools local.
Yeah.
I could go to Lewis, Dover, we've been up there, and there's Seaford, and there's so many that they just don't know. Wow. And after talking to some of the teachers, a lot of them say they would like to teach it, but their bosses say no, they can't teach
Yeah.
And
what it should be.
And then do you ever consider even, the amount of people who might actually be Nanticoke who have no idea that they
Oh, yeah.
actually are? I mean,
Absolutely.
I'm kind of a half example because I know but don't explore it like I should.
Yeah.
But there's got to be no, you, all are a part of this and you have no idea.
All you got to do is go back, for me, 1-2 generations.
Right,
Like
right.
June, you go back there, a lot of them would not claim Nanticoke because it put you at a deficit.
Yeah.
People they liked you even worse.
Right.
So a lot of them, whatever they
Would
could
literally
pass
run from
for,
it.
is what they were.
So when you say it wasn't safe, I feel like I'm asking a dumb question.
No.
But I
No.
have to ask.
No, it's
Not at all.
Why? What do you mean by it wasn't safe? Why would they not want to be?
You're black. You know what that means.
So it's-
But it's the same thing. It is absolutely the same thing. A lot of
you
prejudice.
better being black
and-
than you were Nanticoke. You could be better white than Nanticoke. So, and I'm saying go back.
Yeah.
Our powwows only started, what, 74, 75, somewhere along there?
I mean, let's be
78?
honest. I do know
Yeah.
this much. Like, just within my family name, the street, they're all related, but there are certain. And I don't mean there's no. This isn't any kind of a moral distinction, but there's another group of streets who are all related who spell it with STRETT.
Yeah.
And there's some history there.
Two T's, one T.
Exactly.
Harmons are like that.
Yep.
So
But-
that's speaking to what you
Yeah.
speaking to, right?
Yeah, well, Sylvia is one of our elders, and she told us she owned property in Millsboro.
Yeah.
She could not live in there because she was Nanticoke.
So there you go.
She owned it but could not live. She could go as long as it was daytime. Before the sun come down, she had to come
Yeah.
back this way.
See, these are the things that people don't
So
know.
racism was really bad, especially say from the 40s back.
From the 40s back. Okay, cool.
Yeah. Well, you could go 50s.
Of course.
And you could actually go
You
back
go earlier,
80s,
too.
90s and still see
Yeah.
some of it.
So could you talk a little bit about, because it seemed like, number one, you're from Delaware.
Yeah.
And so talk about, if you don't mind, like your experience growing up with the culture.
Well, see, like I say, a lot of us, because, when I was 6 or so, we moved up Wilmington.
Okay.
I actually graduated from Delaware High School up there.
Wow.
From
Yeah,
where?
yeah.
Delaware,
Yeah.
right by Delaware Memorial Bridge.
I don't think it's there. Is it still there?
It's
Is it still
elementary
existing?
school or something.
Yeah,
now.
it
It's
is. Yep,
changed
yep.
name.
But DELAWA, how do you? It's all
Yeah.
separate.
Oh,
yeah.
wow.
Like
Delaware
De
High
La
School.
War. Yeah, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah,
Based on the
actually
original
did.
spelling of the guy who everything in Delaware is named.
Yeah,
after.
like Lord Delaware.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But by being up there, like I said, we would pass for whatever,
Yeah.
people would accept us as. And we would pass for a high yellow, you heard that term,
Yeah.
or black or whatever. So we didn't really associate, when we come down, we just come to family members and, we didn't pay it no mind.
Yeah. And then how did you connect? Because you're clearly invested now. Like, what was
Well,
the
after
path
I
for
moved
you?
down, actually, after I retired.
Okay. So you asked me when I was going, after I retire. Oh, no, I'm playing.
No, sir. No, sir.
My aunt's over there.
We're gonna
like-
get you earlier than that.
Right.
Yes.
No,
Yeah.
exactly. I'm
No,
totally playing.
something
Yes.
started, you met Adrian.
Yes, of course.
I think she was in the dance circle, I say 2 years before she was even born.
Oh, wow.
That's how long
That's
she'd
beautiful.
been dancing.
Yeah.
Wow.
But after I retired, I had the time, so I come down, and the more you do, the more you get involved.
Right.
And I just said I want to dance, so I started looking into it, studying it to
Yeah.
see what it's all about before you start dancing.
Did
Know
you
what you're
dance
doing.
before that? Did
No.
So
No.
that's
No.
actually a pretty big step right there, too.
Yeah, my
Pun
first
intended,
dance was
but-
right over Uncle Bill's at our grounds.
Interesting.
And that was 2013, 12, I think.
Okay.
But that was the first one. But I tell anybody, if you want to dance, it's great, but study it.
Yeah.
Know what you're doing before
Yes.
you do it.
Right.
Yes.
Know the etiquette, because that circle powwow dance is so much more involved than what people even think.
Talk about it. Tell us.
Well, even for me, I do a Southern straight. So I got certain regalia, certain pieces I wear because of that dance style,
Okay.
which is otter trail and different things. I have switched over because she talked about Eastern Woodland. So this is Eastern Woodland bonnet.
Okay.
Way back on the East Coast and all, they wore the feather straight up.
Okay.
Versus, well, the other ones were what we call a porky roach. They're actually made with porky hair with a feather in the center,
Okay.
like right up
Oh,
there.
okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
See that?
Yep.
but that's Oklahoma style.
Okay.
Got you. I've definitely
Most
seen
of our
that before.
dancings come out of Oklahoma because the forced marches and all put all your Native Americans in Oklahoma,
Yeah.
and they were together, so they started having powwows, and
you
then it
trade
branched
culture.
out.
Yeah.
But our dance style come from there
Interesting.
because my knees and all, Eastern Woodland is hard.
You're not doing any splits.
No, they're hard on the knees. That's a
Understood.
young man.
Understood.
And actually, they say the Southern Straight was for elders.
Okay.
When they got old, they couldn't dance as hard. The knees didn't work.
Yeah.
So we had a dance
The Southern
for
Straight.
ourselves. And all of these dances, you'll hear 3 or 4 different versions of how they come about.
Yes, that's true.
So you pick one you like and you go with it.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Yeah.
Some of the other ones, a straight dancer, I carry a dance stick.
Yeah.
A stick. And they say after a battle, their job was to go out and make sure all the ones out there dead were dead.
Oh, wow.
You know.
Yeah.
And you watch, some of them carry a step where they kind of sweep,
Yep.
like they would be kicking a body or
That's-
poking it.
wow.
That's one style. I don't very seldom talk
Okay.
about that one.
Okay.
But anyway, I wear the bonnet, and that would be wampum, which is
Got you.
our Eastern.
That's currency, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's actually made from clamshell. But when the Europeans come over, it was really valued
Yeah.
because it took so long to make.
Yeah.
Because you had to take a clamshell and grind it down on soapstone, rock, sand, water, and make these little beads. So you think of a clamshell and think of these
Wow.
beads.
Okay.
And now I can tell you, these are not real.
But I
I
understand
couldn't
the
afford
point.
them. And they won't hold up as good
Okay.
because they're more brittle.
Of course.
And because I've tried to clean out a hole and they split wide open.
Okay.
And I done paid $12 for one little piece and it
that
just break
adds up
open.
quickly. Yeah.
My
All right.
gosh.
So yeah, but everybody thinks because I wear this, they'll call me chief. But bonnets, your headdress has nothing to do with you being chief. The one back there, you see the big headdress?
Yes.
Everybody thinks they are called war bonnets. It has nothing to do
I've
with
heard
being
that.
chief. Yeah, they were, but
Man, Hollywood sucks.
I mean.
yeah,
let's
Hollywood
talk
hurts
about it.
It
more
does.
than anything.
Yes.
Oh my God.
But
Wow.
back in the day, to get your feathers, you had to earn them,
Yes.
which means somebody had to watch you or see you do something they thought was courageous.
Yeah.
And then they would gift you a feather.
That's beautiful.
And you think of our military.
Right.
You go out, we get medals and all for doing something,
Yes.
but they gave, but a person could never make his own. It would be, they'd
Yeah.
kick you out if you ever made your own.
Okay.
So it always had to be, somebody had to watch you, see it, and think it was worthy, and then start making it and add feathers. Chiefs a lot of time on TV, because they're great warriors, that's why they're chiefs and there's several different chiefs in a clan. People don't realize that.
No.
But it ain't just one chief normally, because you got a chief of war, chief of peace,
Oh.
a chief that would settle disputes and all.
Sure. Was it like a spiritual chief, or is that a different
Yeah,
thing? Or?
well, that would be a different line.
Okay. I'm just.
You're that way, but there would be different chiefs. Our Constitution,
Yes.
the United States, was written off of the Iroquois. They had Article of Peace, and they had that for like 700 years.
Okay.
But that's how they governed the 5 tribes and then added a 6th.
Yeah.
They would meet and they would have a total of 50 chiefs
Yeah.
come together out of those 4 tribes and settle disputes and all.
Yeah.
But the way it was done, that Ben Franklin and all of them studied it and talked to them, and then they wrote our Constitution. And you see a lot of similarities when you look into it.
I had no idea.
And then they turn around and call them savages. That one I ain't got figured out yet.
Yeah, right, exactly. Because
Yeah.
there's such a preconceived notion that
Yeah.
it was a chaotic system of
Yeah.
just absolute freedom But
Yeah.
there was structure.
Yeah,
You know?
it was, and they governed quite a bit of the territory because the five together were so big and massive.
Right.
Pennsylvania was the river
The Susquehanna?
Susquehannocks.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
They were more of a aggressive tribe,
Okay.
and then in the end, the Federation come down and put a stop to them.
Okay.
Wow.
That's
Yeah,
okay. I
because-
understand your point.
You know, they were like, they like the United States do. They go everywhere and
Right.
stick their nose in
Yeah.
and try to
Yep.
solve
I
problems.
understand exactly what you're saying, 100%.
But it's great once you asked earlier, once I got into it and I come down here, talk to Sterling and June a lot, you can gain a lot of information just in this little building.
Clearly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that, it's up there on that back wall in there written about the Iroquois and their confederation. There's a staff in one of the cabinets that has the 50 rungs in it for the 50 chiefs in it.
We're
Okay.
going to show you all that. We're going to get some of the footage.
Or just come down and visit us.
You could do
Yes.
that too.
Both, exactly.
So I want to backtrack a little bit when I said Hollywood sucks.
Keep going.
Because you, and I hate that I'm saying this, but you feel like you know so much about, Native Americans, indigenous tribes and people. And then I'm hearing you detailing what you're detailing, and I feel, number one, I feel bamboozled.
Yeah.
I'm offended for you because as a black woman, what I see on television, what we've seen, with different stereotypes and things like that, I'm bothered by that. But then to know that the history of your people, from the moment, it's just. What did it feel like, or what did you think when you started really researching your history, and then because I'm sure, like most little girls, you watched Pocahontas, and you saw the
Yeah.
different things on TV. What were you thinking?
When I was little and watching Pocahontas, I feel like me and probably many other Native girls have a very complicated history with Pocahontas, because on one hand, we're like, finally, there's a Native character on TV, like you want to be able to, you want to be able to just like, connect with that. But then you also, you see how they kind of just completely twisted the whole history, creating this, sort of false love narrative between
Yes.
her and John Smith.
Yeah.
And then you're just like, y'all could have maybe made that extra effort, and told an actual, told a good story, like learned some of that history, and you could have still made a Disney type of movie about a Native girl that we could all still get behind.
Mm-hmm.
But, Pocahontas as a person, people forget that she was a real person.
Right.
Like, she's not just a character that Disney made up. Like, she's a real person from the Powhatan community, which is very similar and sort of pre-contact was very much connected to the Nanticoke community. They were two political federations that were neighbors to each other, and so they had interactions. And so, really just thinking about, her life was really very much a tragedy. And, the fact that she was, kidnapped from her community, all for the sake of tobacco and capitalism, right? So, they, the colonists holding her hostage because they wanted to be able to find the secret to, successfully growing tobacco. And then, her, dying young so tragically, people even suspect that she was murdered. But, it just makes me really angry with Hollywood sometimes, that they can do better, because we've seen, wonderful movies being made, that really, that people can get behind and feel really great about. And yet they still continue to make these, terrible, like, stereotypical, caricatures.
Yeah.
And so, I really encourage all filmmakers out there to really think about what you're putting out there.
Yeah.
Do better.
And maybe you will inspire with your work, like the next sort of indigenous, an indigenous filmmaker to tell these stories the proper way. You know?
And there are-
Nanticoke,
You know?
a
Yes.
Nanticoke filmmaker.
Yes, because there are some indigenous filmmakers out there who
Yeah.
are doing excellent work, and
Okay. Who
you
should
know.
we check out in that regard, if you don't mind?
Oh,
Yeah.
you know, I will. Let me get you a list
Got you.
to
Cool.
Google later.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I have a whole list
Absolutely.
for you.
But
Yep.
I asked that question because I think, and I say this as, I'm just gonna say it. I walked in here completely dumb, completely stupid to
Ignorant.
ignorant,
Not stupid.
completely ignorant to the struggles of the Nanticoke tribe and tribes of other indigenous, people, and living based off of, or knowing based off of what Hollywood has shown me, but hearing your story, hearing, what you guys have gone through and are going through, it really makes me feel proud that you are still here, that we're having the very first powwow in Wilmington to connect those who may not know about their people, who may not know about what a powwow is. It also, like we did the Agungun Festival.
Yes.
And the biggest thing for me was educating the cultures outside of African Americans and Pan-Africans and African people, because when a community is cultured, like completely with everyone involved, it makes us all better.
Yes.
So I asked you that because I need people to understand that it's not enough to watch a Disney movie. It's not enough to, have an indigenous friend. It's what is enough is learning, what hurt you and what makes you proud and what you're teaching,
Yeah. That comment that you made at the beginning, hanging on to your point about still here, I don't. It was really, really powerful,
Yes.
and on a lot of different levels.
We need a shirt.
It's out there.
Yeah.
Is that a common
We are still
theme?
here
It
is,
Oh,
It
okay.
is,
yeah.
So, where do you guys sort of predict and hope that things go in this country, in this area, for indigenous culture? Do you feel like, number one, we're making progress in the right direction, and, where should we be going and where are we going? If you can speak on that, that'd be great.
I don't think the progress is linear. Sometimes
Sure.
you're taking a step forward, sometimes it's 3 steps back.
Absolutely.
You know,
Absolutely. Yep.
so-
I just bit my tongue. I want you to know that. But yes. Yep.
but then in my mind, we're always going forward because whenever I put this on and I'm doing something, I'm going to go talk to somebody.
Right.
And when I leave, they're going to know we
Right.
are still here.
Right.
Yeah.
And they receive it really good. And I talk to numerous people, and they can be little, big,
Yeah. Yeah.
And I hope they realize that we are still here,
Yeah.
and a culture within a culture.
Yeah.
Yes.
What is the best way for someone to educate themselves upon Nanticoke and then just indigenous culture in America, at least in general? Like how if I was like, okay, I need to really learn about this, just even if I was from France, like what would be the appropriate route?
Well, there's obvious all kinds of books.
Yes.
But you got to be careful with some of these
Be
books,
careful,
depending on
yes.
who's writing them.
Yeah.
Yeah, some we agree with, some not so much.
Yeah.
Is it on do you have like a website with like a catalog of books you should read?
I don't think we have a website for that, do we?
You know,
Jim?
that's something that I would love to put
Where
together.
books you
so maybe
recommend.
when you're talking about in the future,
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
that's something
Yeah.
that we can sort of help create to help steer people towards those better directions.
Yes.
When I get you that list of Native filmmakers,
Yes.
they're really exploring, different, aspects of different, communities and different identities and different
Yep.
struggles.
Yeah.
I think, going to, if you want to learn though about the Nanticokes, or you want to learn about any of these other communities, the best way is to go talk to people in that community.
Yeah.
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 Right.
So, you can, so the powwows are like these sort of public spaces where we're all together. And so there's plenty of opportunities to talk to people if you're not really sure about, well, how do I go and talk to them? Where are they? So, this museum that we're in is another place where you can come and talk to people and start to ask those questions and get some more resources from there.
Okay.
And I even donate time, a member with Maryland Historical Society,
Sure.
right in Vienna, Maryland.
Sure.
And we have, it's actually on what used to be a Nanticoke reservation,
Okay.
but we have a longhouse built,
Yep.
There's a plantation house,
Yep.
and they do programs twice a year, but they have the Europeans there, blacks are there, and Indians are there. So it's all three groups demonstrating everything at the same time.
Yeah, that's
And that's a great place to,
Yeah.
when they have it,
Yeah.
which they'll be coming up towards the end of the year would be the next one.
Okay.
But we already had our Jubilee, which would be our Native American section of it.
Okay.
And we had a good turnout. Were you there?
No, I had a conflict.
Oh, yeah. She never does, not my one or two. No, but it's really great because I learned a lot over there just in how the longhouses are constructed and
Yeah.
the different things, making a bark baskets where you take bark off a tree and mold it and you make a basket.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So you learn a lot over there. The Pocamoke Tribe comes up.
Yep.
And they do more teaching than we do, like we do powwows, dancing and all, but they showcase different teaching methods of the
Yeah.
old way.
Yes.
And it's really great.
Awesome.
And you can go a lot of places and learn a lot of different things. Some movies are Trail of Tears. You get a
Yeah.
documentary about it.
Sure.
That'll make you cry if you watch it.
Yep.
Let's go get some tissues. We got to watch that.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It is the way they forced them out.
Yeah.
They drugged them out the back door. Yeah.
Yeah. Or there's a lot of films that have come out about the the residential schools as well, which a lot of people don't even know about.
Do you? So this is I could keep you guys
I
tied up
know,
for
and
2
I
hours.
have like a few things I need to ask.
Yeah, like if you guys get tired of this conversation, say so, because I'm thinking a lot of different things. And genetically, I think everyone kind of knows it. I certainly have African American blood, and I certainly have Nanticoke blood, and I certainly have some German and all kinds of different genetics in me.
Well, we're Irish, Dutch, all of them are right here.
And one thing that I have been thinking about a lot recently is there's this whole concept of black joy. And the reason I'm bringing that up is because I notice a parallel, whereas so often, they paint Hollywood and, different media outlets paint black culture as nothing but pain, nothing but struggle, and nothing but hurt. And it's all just, and there's no sense of, we're actually just a beautiful, strong culture.
Right.
And I can't help but draw that parallel with Nanticoke and indigenous culture. Is that something that you could speak on? Because I just threw this out of my brain now. Like, do you feel, like we talk about the Trail of Tears, and it's important to know that, but we're a strong, joyful, is that, what would you say towards that idea?
Yeah.
I don't know if it's in line with it.
Sure.
But as you know, the center right down the road,
Yes.
that is originally Indian school.
Yes. My grandfather went there. Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
A lot of, and they had brothers and sisters that come here.
Okay.
But this was a DuPont school.
Yes.
But when they left there, they had to go to Haskell.
Okay.
Out in Kansas.
Okay.
For boarding school to go from 8th grade on up. And we had, some 30-some people. But Joe Harmon was one of the last ones to graduate from Haskell, and that was in 68? Yeah, to me, 68 ain't that far back. You might think it's a little bit farther, but some of us, 68 ain't that far behind me. Wow. To in my mind that he had to go to a boarding school to graduate, and it's in my lifetime.
Yeah.
And he went to an Indian school.
Yeah.
And you start thinking about things like that, and they went through a lot just so we wouldn't have to.
Yes. Yes, it's a common theme,
Yeah.
That's my dad in every single way, you know what I mean? From however you cut it culturally, like standing on the shoulders of giants, that whole idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just to give some context for how those schools got created, Haskell, and there were several of them, hundreds of them across the U.S. and Canada. They were created by the federal government and the Canadian government, and some were run by churches. I think. And they were established starting in the 1880s and going until the 1970s here and the 1990s in Canada. And they were Indian education schools putting schools in heavy quotation, but
Right.
they were basically these institutions that were trying to assimilate Native people into this, Western American culture. And so they're taking, each different community had like a slightly different experience, but there's things that are shared across all of them, where you have, children, being taken from their families, from their communities, and being put into these schools. This is where a lot of the language was, I won't even say lost because lost is such a passive word. The
Yeah.
language was, taken
They were
I'm
from
gonna speak
them.
for you, but
Yeah.
exactly, yeah.
They were forbidden to even use it, and they
yes.
would be harshly punished.
Exactly.
schools.
At these
Yeah,
schools.
and Carlisle, right in Pennsylvania,
Was the
was
first
one
one.
of the worst ones.
Yeah.
They were still digging up, 130
Yeah.
or 40
So maybe people have
unknown graves up there?
Yeah, so maybe people have heard, just in the last year, they've begun excavating many of these sites, and they're finding all the bodies of the children buried there. We're up to over 10,000, I think,
Yeah.
children.
Sorry.
And
Yeah.
they're all unnamed,
Yeah,
They didn't keep records.
yeah.
Why is it every interview I'm crying now?
I mean, because there's so much trauma.
Yeah.
There
And
is so
you-
much trauma.
You said the Black experience is to be the struggle, and I'm like,
Yeah.
y'all are right there with us.
I mean,
Yeah.
there are so
Oh,
many
yeah.
parallels. I mean, they're different stories and different experiences, but there are certainly, so many parallels that, can be drawn.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And
But we still have that, I know that when they talk about, Black girl magic and Black boy joy.
Yes.
And,
you got that Nanticoke magic.
yes, and, we have that, our, different Native pride and just, getting back to your statement before, we are still here.
Yes.
And, part of our powwows are really celebrating that we are still here and we are here and we can pass our traditions to our children. We have our children and,
Yes.
we can keep, this going into the next 7 generations.
And you
Yeah.
are an example of that. Like the,
go.
what is wrong with me?
You're feeling
You're a
the- you're
human.
feeling
That's
the
good,
feels.
yeah.
Feel the feels. Go ahead.
It's just inspiring because you're trying to pass on the sleeping language, and you're super young. And
Not quite as young as I look, but that's okay.
That's them indigenous genes, girl.
Yeah,
Go
you
ahead.
know? I drink a lot of water.
it's
Water
just
is life.
beautiful, you know?
Right.
It's
Yeah.
beautiful to see that and to be amongst people who want to see the advancement of people, of your people, And I'm very appreciative.
Could you talk specifically about what you're studying? Because I don't think we really
Yeah,
actually
sure.
went all the way in. Like I
He
really
never
want to.
lets me cry. He like
It's okay.
Okay, everyone zero in on Naj. We'll put the
All
camera
right,
right
well,
on
it's
you.
a good
We'll do
thing.
a slow zoom
It's a
and
good
then
thing.
I can move it and
I'm
focus
glad
on
he
you.
does that.
We're
You know
gonna have
what?
a
I
5-minute cry.
You know what? Your tears show that you are human and that you feel these things because if you're not crying, that you're not feeling.
Yeah.
Always say about me. No,
He has no heart.
the robot has arrived.
Listen, he's as empty as that shell right there. He's as empty as that shell.
You share your pain through laughter.
I tell
Yes.
you're lucky Raggy
Tears of a
wasn't here
cloud.
telling
There we
you
go.
about it.
Yeah.
Because
Yes.
she will make you cry.
Remind
Yes.
me not to talk to her at the powwow.
Right.
Yeah. But so my research is right now I'm actually in the middle of conducting research. So that's why I'm traveling around so much,
Yeah,
going to
right.
different events and conducting interviews.
Yeah, working.
So I am researching Nanticoke and Lenape's sovereignty and identity, and kind of really wanting to sort of unpack what those different experiences are of being a Native person and, being a Native person in this type of space. And so, kind of really looking at what does it mean we are still here? What does that mean for different individuals and how they, walk through the world, how they experience it? And so many, other historians, they tend to write about Nanticoke people, Lenape people, all Native Americans really, in these sort of very monolithic terms. So you have these statements where it's saying that the Lenape believed this, and the Lenape did this, and the Lenape, said that. But this idea that the Lenape is not this single bounded entity that you can make these sort of blanket statements about in the way that people generally write about.
Right.
And so there are several Lenape communities today. There are so many of them, and I've been trying to talk to individuals from as many of these different communities as I can. So the Nanticokes, we have a different name, but we the Lenape are considered the grandfather community of many of the Eastern Algonquian communities. And so the Nanticokes, we're like a granddaughter of the Lenape people. They're sort of that original branch from which many of these other communities branched off from, and they still continue today. But like today, because of colonization, the Lenape people aren't all in their original homelands. Those original homelands being New Jersey, Eastern Pennsylvania, Northern Delaware, southern parts of New York, Manhattan. Today you have 2 communities out in Oklahoma, you have one in Wisconsin, and those 3 are recognized by the federal government. You have out here in the East Coast, you have our community, the community in Cheswold, our sister community up in New Jersey. There are 2 other tribal communities in New Jersey as well, and some in a few different areas as well. And then in Canada, you have 2 more communities that are also Lenape people.
I didn't know it stretched that far.
Oh yeah, so we had them, they went up north, and I was just up there actually this past weekend, getting to spend time with, my friends and kin in the Muncie, Delaware Nation up there. And so this idea that there are all these different communities and individuals within the communities. So I really want to challenge this idea that Lenape people can even be written about in a monolith, and to also sort of share the experiences, particularly of us Eastern communities, without being under that direct gaze of the federal government, how we exist as Indian people, which is a little bit different than how the communities out west have to live.
But I mean, so I hate to keep drawing, I don't hate to, but I keep drawing this parallel. Like, black people in Philly are different from black people in Atlanta.
Oh, absolutely.
It's the same
Absolutely.
idea. Like, yes, we're all under
the
this,
same,
but
we're
we're
not all the
different.
same.
And
Yeah.
there's an equal struggle for
Yeah.
breaking that monolithic sort of barriers. Like,
Yeah.
no, we're all
Yeah.
different.
So I
Like,
think, culturally there's a lot of parallels that can be drawn. But the other thing to keep in mind that sort of does make a bit of a distinction between what these Native communities are dealing with is that they are not just cultural groups, they're not just racial groups, they are political groups. They all, and that's where we get into that sovereignty issue.
Yes.
It's not just about your heritage, it's also about a political belonging and citizenship.
Of course. Now that you open my brain to the idea, of course.
This is so loaded. Like there's, my gosh. But what I want to do, because I want us to come back and have more conversation.
Absolutely.
I want us to end on some fun facts, if that's okay.
Sure. Do we have any fun
Fun
facts?
fact?
So
She's got the question. She's got the
I got the
question.
question.
Okay.
She's really good at this
So
game,
we don't have to
actually.
create fun
No.
facts.
No,
Okay.
she's really good at this, actually. Yeah, you're going to enjoy this, I think.
Let me, before we do that, I just want to say thank you so much for this opportunity. This has been completely eye-opening, and I'm so excited for the Pow Wow. I heard about it last year for the first time, and when Jay mentioned, I was like, oh, what? You going where? And who's doing what? So over this past, 2 years that I've known you, he's
Right.
talked about.
And I'm the ignorant one. You know
Right,
what I'm saying?
right.
So,
But
yeah.
I'm always like, what? And when I met your chief,
Chief Carmine.
Chief Carmine, absolutely adore her. Oh my God, she's the best. And she said she was gonna adopt me, so just putting that out there. I'm really excited to learn more, and I'm excited for the viewers to learn more. So thank you.
Before you get to those, I want to
Yeah.
do a quick recap because,
Yeah.
the 23rd
Yes.
of July
Yes.
at the Delaware Art Museum,
At 11 a.m.
11
to
a.m.,
4.
they're going to come up to the Pow Wow. If you're in Newcastle County,
Yes.
if you're in Kent County, if you're in Sussex County, if you're in Philadelphia,
Yep.
Yes.
if you're in New Jersey,
Come out.
Yep.
come to Wilmington this time for our first Pow. Let me get this
Yes.
up there.
the
Zoom that in.
Pow Wow.
There we go.
Zoom that all the way.
Now, the flyer is also
what I'm saying?
floating through social media, on
Yes.
Facebook,
Let's get that
Instagram, I
exactly
believe.
correct. All right.
Why is it lopsided?
What
your
are-
angles are
You're,
off.
you're tilting it this way. Like.
What are the people going to experience when they come up to the Pow Wow?
They're going to hear music.
Mm-hmm.
They're
Yeah.
going to see some dancing. They're probably going to be able to join in. We usually have a community dance, a round dance, where
Yeah.
everybody
Yeah.
can take part in.
Yes.
Okay.
They're going
It,
to eat some
um,
food.
What kind of food?
Are there
What
food
kind of
vendors?
Oh, good.
I know there's one or two.
Okay.
Izzy didn't have a whole list of it.
Okay.
But yeah, you've been to our where you
course.
come through the woods
Yep.
on a tram,
Yep.
and you're in the tree line,
Yep.
and the first thing you do is hear drums,
Yes.
and that's you don't have to say no more. I used to ride the tram just to come in to
I
hear
did
the
that
drums.
sometimes.
That
too.
experience.
But for us,
Yeah.
when we get out and, everything's going on, but when we first start hearing bells, because most dancers wear bells,
Okay.
clackers, something.
Cones.
And you'll start hearing those bells, and then it's getting time.
That's cool.
It's getting time. Just the bells, for me, is what gets me going.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then at the end of the day, where everything just goes silent,
Yeah.
and they put them all away,
Yeah.
then I can go home and rest.
You sound like a kid on
I
like
know.
Christmas Eve the way you explained it. That was like a beautiful scene. Like first you
Yes.
hear the bells.
Yeah, well, depending on how many I go to,
No, I got you.
because our schedule's pretty full for the next
Right.
4 or 5 Saturdays. Different events. We do River Fest. We Harrington Fair. We'll have a mini powwow at Harrington Fair
We will be.
on
We will be
30th,
down
I
there
think.
for
the
that.
last day.
Yeah.
Okay.
Back over there, we're outside, and that's usually a pretty good one.
So make sure
Okay.
we're there.
We gotta try to find you.
Yeah,
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know the time. Adrian, our dance coordinator, she gives us all that time and all.
We'll
And
call you.
yeah,
We will call you. Don't worry.
I don't call because when she tells me where to go, when to be there,
He said-
that's it.
Yep.
Yeah,
We'll call you.
yeah.
Call me.
She said, be down
call
here. I said, okay. So,
Love it.
Okay.
And we appreciate it.
Yes.
yeah, but I tell anybody for us that goes in the circle and dances and all,
Yeah.
it is truly different than any spectator can ever realize.
Yes.
Okay.
Because especially if we ain't seen nobody in a while,
Yeah.
like last year, where we missed so
Yes.
many powwows, and then
Yes.
when we first started coming back, the first ones, just to see the people again,
Yeah.
and we will be out there making pretend we're dancing, but we're
Yeah.
talking and picking at each other. We're having a good time
That's
out
great.
there.
I love it.
Yes.
But then when our specialty dances, when they
Yeah.
call us to come out and do our dance, then it all changes.
Yeah.
What happens then, and what does that feel like when you're in your dance, like when you're doing? your dance?
Because then, like when they call Southern Straight, usually I know pretty much everybody out there, and so we go and greet each other and all. But originally, dances were started as prayer dances.
Yeah.
They would go out and dance and say a prayer to our Creator, and for different reasons. So you get that mindset that you're going out for a prayer dance, and you know in your mind what your steps are going to be. You listen to the drum because that tells you when to step and everything.
Sure.
And you focus on just that.
Yep.
Yeah.
You don't see the crowd.
Right.
My first year I went out and danced. I only got 2 different dances, but they done a trot at the end. Getting it close to the end of the day, most of the dancers were gone. And you got to remember, this is my first time out there. And I go out, and there ain't a soul out there but me. And I say, wow. So you get that mindset,
Yeah.
and then you just start dancing and thinking about the Creator. And next thing you know, if you're lucky, you get on the end, you step.
Yeah.
She knows the ending is just as important as any of it, because you
Okay.
got to
Yeah.
stop on beat.
You want to stop,
Yes.
you need to stop
Yeah.
your dancing when the drum stops
Yeah.
on its last beat.
You want to,
And if you're in a contest, it matters. If
Yeah.
you get eliminated.
Non-dancers.
Right.
But
Yeah.
I will also say, so my dance style, I dance jingle, and the jingle dress also is pretty distinct among the other dances in that it's very specifically a medicine dance, a healing dance, and so. Sometimes we are out there, doing exhibitions of our dance styles like the other dancers, but then other times if there is, something going on in the community, like, COVID, or, the passing of, different people, or, some other type of trauma or healing or sickness, they will ask the jingle dress dancers to come out and dance a healing song, very specifically. And so when you're talking about sort of like, how does it feel when you're dancing, I can definitely feel that different energy when I'm dancing that healing song. Just this past weekend when I was at this powwow in Ontario, and I was surrounded by jingle dress dancers. It was probably the most that I'd ever danced with at one time. Because, usually our powwows, there are bigger ones out west, but, our powwows, we get, anywhere between 5 to 10 of, any one particular dance style. Sometimes a little bit more. But here there could have been something like 30, 30 women and girls together dancing. And our dresses are covered with these metallic cones.
That's one in the corner right there.
Oh, yes, you can see that red and pink, yes.
Beautiful.
So that is a jingle dress. And so when we dance, the cones are jingling, and it makes this sound, and the sound is, part of that healing dance. And so, when you have a lot of dancers out there together, like you hear those cones, and it's just a very, it's a very special moment, and you're trying to send out all of that energy and all of that medicine and healing to everyone who needs it.
That's beautiful.
And I guarantee you sometimes those jingles line right up where everybody is moving, because the drum keeps them, and everybody's moving together, so it sounds like just one big one versus a lot of little ones.
No, that gives me chills. I love it. I get it. I can imagine.
And
That's
if
great.
you go and just watch their footwork,
Right.
they are amazing with their footwork. She, her, Adrian,
Yes.
I can't.
Hold on. I got to do this. All right.
No, my footwork ain't like that.
No. That's what I was going to do. So, Adrian coordinated all of this.
Yeah.
Yes, she did.
Can you just talk a little bit about her and her role in the culture, here, what she does? Because she very consciously hid from this camera. And that's
Yes.
fine.
She won't.
She won't be on camera.
You won't do it.
But give her all of her flowers and love, and tell the people about who she is and what she does.
So Adrienne is amazing. She is our head woman dancer, and she, she's also the head of our dance troupe. So when we go to different performances and programs, she's in charge of organizing, figuring out who's going to be there, making sure she has all the different dance styles represented that they need, making sure everybody has the information. All that coordination and organization is all about her. And also, she's a beautiful dancer. She also dances jingle, and I have learned so much from her as far as dancing. And just about powwow etiquette, because as Herman was saying earlier, before you get in that dance circle, there's so much to learn. And I learn every time I step in the dance circle, I learn something new as well. And, she is a wealth of knowledge and knows so much, and just a beautiful, wonderful person.
Yeah.
You heard that?
Yes.
We love you, Adrienne.
And she's been doing it forever.
Yes.
And she don't only know jingle dress,
Right.
but she pretty much knows a little bit about every dance style out there.
Yes.
Even the men's traditional,
Yeah.
grass. She can tell you, whether it's good or not, because she's been doing it for so long.
Yeah.
And like you say, when she sets up an event for us, most of the time, I even know where the bathroom is before I get there.
Yeah.
She's got it narrowed down to every little, she probably called you 10 times.
Listen, she is responsible for every ounce of this.
Yeah.
Where to go, who's going to be there. She kept me tight the same way I'm sure she does for you guys.
She
Absolutely.
does.
So-
That's why I just sit back and whatever she tells me, I say, okay.
Yep.
And that's it.
Yep.
Yes.
But she's the sweetest person you can have out there.
Yeah. Thank you for that.
She'll be at the powwow, right?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
In charge.
She's head lady dancer, I believe.
She's the head dancer
We'll
there.
catch her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you won't catch her on camera, but she'll be happy to talk to you off camera.
Okay.
Yeah. But you go up with that, she'll
Yeah.
run from you.
That's
Yeah.
all right.
And she has traveled, she's danced
Yes.
everywhere.
Wow.
But she says she won't do competition because
true.
that ain't
That's
why
what it's
she
about.
does it.
Yeah.
That's about.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
beautiful.
after talking to, I won't do competition. I won't even judge. Because if I don't want to be out there to be judged, then I shouldn't be judging anybody other than that.
That's fair.
And besides, I said it all looks good to me. Ain't no way.
Right,
It's so hard to judge though because
Unless they
everybody.
miss that last step.
Well, yes. Okay, so
The Indian can mess you up.
yes, I mean there are mistakes, but you know, when everybody's out there looking good, like everybody has a different style that they dance. So
Yeah.
how do you compare, you know, one person's dance style against another? You know, sometimes
Yeah.
that's really hard.
Yeah.
But I do contest powwows, and you know I enjoy them. I'm usually just, but I still feel like I'm not going there to compete. Like I'm going there because
Right.
it's a powwow to dance, and sometimes it's a traditional powwow, and sometimes it's a contest powwow, and you know. The only difference to me is whether I'm wearing a number or not, you know?
Yeah, you get to dance one or two more times.
Yeah, you know, and, you know, still going out there is
Yeah.
just, you know, I'm out there because I want to dance.
Yeah.
But some people go to contest and they go for the contest. They want to win.
Right.
Yes.
And
Yes.
when you talk, their mindset, you can tell them.
Yeah.
They're not like us.
I understand. I get that absolutely completely.
Yeah.
Okay.
Fun time with Naj. Here we go.
All right.
So I don't know how many of these apply. So I'm going to ask them and you say no, it doesn't. So, okay. Favorite Nanticoke cuisine, like food item, food cuisine, dish.
Succotash?
You mean traditional, what cost, any vegetable is what they grew, fish, deer meat,
That's true.
all of that would be traditional meals.
Okay. So
You
what's
know,
your favorite?
and they wasn't microwaved or stir fried or nothing. They were either cooked over the open fire or boiled.
Okay.
You know,
Okay.
that's mainly the way they could cook them.
Right.
Okay.
So, but me personally, T-bone is really good.
I love it.
I knew
Yeah.
There we go.
Okay.
Yeah.
There we go.
I'm a bit, and per se, we didn't really have buffalo on the East Coast because
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
before the Europeans, there was trees, woods
They get stuck
everywhere.
in the trees, you know?
Yeah, and they're
They need
on
space.
open plains.
Need that space.
Yeah. You might get a bear or something occasionally.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
But whatever they had is what they ate,
Right.
and how they fixed it was limited to what they had.
Right.
But nowadays, succotashes are about our biggest known.
It's a soup that's made with corn and lima beans.
Yep.
Yeah, Three Sisters was another soup, the corn, beans,
And squash.
and squash.
Okay. Never heard of that.
What kind of squash?
Well, we have Nanticoke squash.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we're-
That's the one.
We are revitalizing the seeds. Your cousin is working on revitalizing that.
Really?
Yeah.
Courtney Street.
Yeah.
With her organization, you know, Native Roots Farm Foundation. Shout out to
I
that.
should just walk away
Um,
and just tuck my
and-
tail.
It's
But
shameful.
You know,
Right.
she's given me and several other people seeds to grow. So now in my garden, I have 3 different varieties of Nanticoke squash growing.
Wow.
And they all look different from each other. So it's really
Okay.
exciting to have it. But
Okay.
yeah.
But the Three Sisters were actually grown in the garden. Timing is really important. But you start out with corn,
Yes.
and after it gets so high, you would put your beans. Beans are a runner. So they would actually climb up the
corn.
corn stalk.
Yep.
So that would hold them up. Your squash got the big leaves,
Yeah.
Yep.
and they would cover the ground to keep the wood, the weeds and
ingenious.
grass down.
yeah.
And keep the soil nice
And
and
but the nutrients that one took out, one would put back, so they
exactly.
complemented each
Yeah,
other
yeah,
on
yeah.
the three.
Yep.
So you'll hear stories about the Three Sisters.
Wow.
They make them up, but Three Sisters is bean, corns, and squash. And if you do the soup, you got to cook it the same way. Don't put your squash in too soon,
Yeah, squash
because
doesn't
then
last.
it'll
Yeah.
disappear.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It'll get mushy on you.
Yeah.
So you got timing is really important. I wanted to do it out here, but we went to Missouri and everything, and timing is way off.
And also beverage, sassafras tea.
Yeah.
Sassafras.
I have heard about that. I've heard it.
You
for
know what it
sure.
tastes like, even if you've never had it.
Talk to me.
Have you ever drunk root beer?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
sassafras.
Have you been out in the woods and
I mean, now it's like, you know, yellow and red dye number 17 or
Right,
whatever.
right,
But
right.
like,
Yeah.
but
That's what it is.
Yeah.
yes, but that's what that's the root that they got that original flavoring
but
from.
sassafras has a smell all to its own.
Yes.
When you hit that root, you'll know what it is.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
to recognize the sassafras trees, it's the ones that have those leaves that look like mittens. So you have the ones that look like that, and like that, and then the regular one. Yep.
Okay. Whenever my daughter gets sassy, I'd be like, you must be doing that sassy fast too. But yeah, sorry.
There you go.
Sorry.
All of this
That's my.
Okay. So you talked about different dances. What is your, you don't have to dance it, but what is your favorite dance to either watch or do?
To watch. That's hard.
You like watching me dance?
Yeah, jingle dress I like watching because of the footwork. Women's fancy is
Yes.
great
Yes.
because of the
Fancy.
footwork.
they
Men's
have the shawl.
fancy is really good.
Okay.
Yeah.
But they're all fast moving, feathers flying. But if you like just study the dance, then I've seen straight dancers. To me, it's a boring dance, but some are really good, and it takes a lot to do it the way they do it. So that makes that really good. Northern traditional, Eastern woodland.
He's just naming them all now.
Yeah, pretty much whoever's out there at a given time.
yeah.
Then,
This is
But
what
now-
you gotta judge.
Right.
yeah, because,
Exactly.
I like it all.
yeah,
I get it.
Yeah.
the only difference I would have is the drum style.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because we have a northern and a southern drum. A northern is a high pitch, they scream, and my ears don't like that.
Okay.
But I like the beat of a northern drum because it's faster.
Yeah.
A southern drum is slower, but the singing is more, I enjoy listening to it.
Yeah.
Okay.
But some dances you can't do off of a southern drum unless they can do it northern style.
Yeah.
Southern drum, but it makes sense.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
different dance styles are connected with those different types of drums.
Yeah.
Like my
Yeah.
dance style is a northern style dance, and his is a southern.
Yeah,
Interesting.
So usually, assuming that you have the drums that can do it, he'd have a southern drum for his dance style, and I'd have a northern drum for mine.
yeah.
Okay.
And really good drum like Red Blanket, they can do
both.
either.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because she
I-
couldn't dance off of my song if it was played for me.
I could try.
It's
I was
just,
gonna say, what if somebody did that?
It-
Everybody
it's-
would be
Well,
like,
because sometimes
No.
like the beats are different, and
Yeah.
especially like we all have like within our styles there are variations within that style, and so we have what we call a straight song, and then we have our sort of secondary songs, and so the secondary songs will have like a different type of beat, and the rhythm will be different,
Yeah.
and so our footwork will match up to it. So like I would have I couldn't do my secondary dance steps to his secondary songs like beat because the rhythm is entirely different.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense.
it's, the drum in itself is a whole different
okay.
Yeah.
2-hour talk there.
Yep.
Because
I get
it's got so much around it
Yes.
that it's hard to. But once you're out there, we can almost tell,
Yeah.
you'll know the beat when it starts if it's going to suit you or not.
That makes perfect
Okay.
sense to me.
It's hard for me to adjust to a beat that's off
Yeah.
Sure.
because
Yeah.
I'm not that flexible.
Right.
Pharrell could do it.
Right.
Adrian can do it.
Okay.
Adrian can adapt to almost any drum.
Pretty cool.
But for me, it's got to be, and I like I say, only have the two dance styles. We do a southern straight or a trot, which a trot is I'm stepping on every beat,
Okay.
and then it changes.
Okay.
Like that.
Where she could probably dance off of a trot song
I could.
because
I could
of
could
the
kind
way
of
it's
do a
beat.
yeah.
Hey, we need a drummer here right now so I can hear all this. But
I know.
Yeah.
Okay, favorite piece of regalia? Either combination or just a piece.
Favorite part of it. Oh. That's hard. And I'm saying I'm a Gemini, so I don't make I'm not good with making those types of decisions. Like I don't have favorites.
The medicine bag?
Is that your favorite?
No, I was just going
Or
to
that's
show you
his,
this.
oh.
This is just a pipe bag.
Okay.
Wow.
But you see this emblem here? This is quill work inside with beads around it.
Porcupine quill.
Can I hold that up to the camera?
Yeah.
Can I touch it?
And since I'm a veteran,
Whoa, that's real.
yeah.
Yeah, we don't wear faux fur.
Peter, we did not listen.
You know what? Well, I'm not
Don't
gonna
show up. Don't show up.
I'm not gonna get into that conversation,
see-
but
Now,
I got you.
I wear a trailer to match this down the back. It's the whole fur.
What kind of animal is that?
This is a
Otter.
Otter.
Okay.
Yeah, give me, I've
Yeah.
seen your moment.
Okay.
It's okay.
Because
Got an
I
out-of-body
also wear
experience.
otter on my
Yeah.
regalia too. But I have he's
Oh
got this.
God, Jay, stop.
But actually, a tribal member, Lenny Harmon, done this all for me.
Yes,
Wow.
he's very talented.
Where this is quill work also,
That's
with
cute.
wampum
That's
in the middle.
What do you call it? A bullet? No.
Bolo,
Bolo.
yes.
Bolo,
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah.
I love those.
But to say a favorite,
You don't got one. It's okay.
I can't even pick a favorite shirt. I change.
Fair enough.
Because each different part of our regalia has different meaning, and
Yeah.
so I think I feel differently about the different pieces, and I can remember sort of, how I got them, or, for some pieces I made, some were made by others, some were gifted,
Yeah.
and so, yeah.
Okay. No.
Well, I guess my belt. Cause,
Okay.
well, that's the Vietnam ribbon with the flags on each side I wear all the
Yes.
time.
Yes, sir.
Bob Smith, who passed just a couple years ago, he beaded that all for me, and there's over 18,000 beads in that belt, but he does them one at a time.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's,
Dedication.
for what it represents,
Yeah.
is probably my favorite, and because I only got the one belt. Everything else I got 2 or 3 of, but the belt is
That
one.
makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, head pieces, I can change them 3 or 4 different times.
Okay. All right. Last question.
So you,
Okay,
what-
so we're gonna make a decision this time.
Okay.
Maybe. Maybe.
What is your favorite Nanticoke word?
Oh, Iwinatu, you like that one? Okay, so Iwinatu means peace,
Okay.
and
Yeah.
it's also sometimes used as a greeting as well.
Okay. How do you say it?
Iwinatu.
Iwinatu?
Iwinatu.
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 Yes.
It's a beautiful, the 2 words that we've had. How do you say thank you again?
Winishi.
Winishi.
Yeah.
Those are 2.
Wanishi or Wanishi?
People, so keeping in mind that languages, even as you're hearing us talk now, like
Yeah.
we're pronouncing different vowels differently because it's just an accent. So both of those are correct.
I
is
got
my
laughed
point.
at for the whole 4 days I was in Ohio for not saying water, and because in Delaware we say water.
Well,
so there,
okay,
it's
so
same point,
I
right?
got teased my entire 18 years there because my mom is from Delaware, right?
Uh-huh.
So she taught me to say water. She
Yeah.
taught me to say soda, and
A pop, all
and they're
those
like,
things,
"What are you
right?
talking? Like, what's soda?" I was like, "We drink pop here."
Right. And then
I
some people
totally
say soda.
understand.
You ever hear people say
Oh,
that?
yeah,
That's what it
soda.
is. They got a soda. Like, oh,
Yeah.
that's
So Wanishi and
Iwinatu.
Iwinatu.
Yeah.
Yeah,
mine
there's-
would be, we eat Kinawashini pot
say that.
with my accent.
Yeah, with his accent.
We eat Kinawashini pot.
Okay.
Okay.
It's good to see you, my friend.
There we go.
Oh.
Beautiful.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I use it often, so,
Yeah.
That's cool.
Well, we could do this all day.
yeah.
I will say one more word that I really do
Yes,
like
yes,
that
please do.
that he just learned too. It's katakita wakanan. It means our language.
Yeah,
Katakita Wakanen.
Yeah.
I said it
So
the
you-
first
You
time.
did that.
Exactly.
Good
It has a
job.
cadence to it, right? So you
Yeah.
can almost sing it, although it's very lyrical.
and then
Katakita
put
wakanan.
Winishi on the end,
Oh.
Yes.
our language, thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any further points or comments that you want to make before we wrap it up? Because this was wonderful.
We could probably keep going all night, but
I
you
know,
know,
right?
maybe
Like, my goodness.
Well, I would say, come on out to the powwow that's coming up, or
July
our
23rd.
powwow, any powwow.
Yes.
The first time, you will really enjoy it if you listen to most MCs explains everything to you.
Okay.
Yep.
Keith Colson, our MC, the one that'll be up there, is really good if you listen to him, because he explains the dances, what it's about. So when you look at it, you know what you're looking at.
Yes.
Yeah.
Other
And he's-
than just somebody out there dancing,
Yeah.
you know why.
And he's on the microphone, so everybody can hear him.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But your first powwow and your second, third, fourth,
Keep coming.
Yeah.
the more you do it, the better they'll get because you understand it more.
Yes.
And if you're any native blood and all, then start investigating, get to know your tribe,
Come find your family.
and
Yeah.
then come in the circle.
Yes.
Thank
You
you
wanna
so much.
Yeah. I will let him, end with those really powerful, wonderful words.
Perfect.
Yeah.
We are still here.
We are still here.
Thank you, everybody. That was
Thank
beautiful.
you. See you July 23rd.